can I ask you a question?
Sure, Andy.
Hey, you guys, we've got the transfer to do, but I didn't know if you guys were going over the town meeting warrant tonight also.
We are doing the warrant. We're going to do the transfers and then take a look at the warrant.
Okay, I just didn't know if you were doing both tonight. Okay, thanks, Sam.
We are, thank you. Okay, good evening. This is,
Muted.
This is the Finance Committee meeting on Wednesday, September 13th. We're starting at 7 p.m. and we have a quorum. Tonight's agenda includes
Unmuted.
voting on transfer requests and then reviewing and voting on recommendations for the town meeting warrant for the town meeting on June 2nd. We'll also vote to authorize our Chief Financial Officer to do verbal approvals. First, we'll look at some transfers. The first transfer we're looking at is from the assessor. The assessor is requesting money, $1,061, to go from the salary assistant assessor line to the salary line. Adjustment requested due to internal promotion resulting from retirement. Do we have any, Ed, do you want to tell us a little about this?
Sure. I don't know if Seth has joined us.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm on the line.
Oh,
Okay, good.
Seth, huh? So Seth,
Yes.
do you want to tell us what the two transfers are about? Or three, actually.
Transfer, well...
Let me take.
Okay, Seth, it's a transfer from the salary assistant assessor line to the salary line, $1,061, and it's an adjustment requested due to an internal promotion.
Madam Chair, if I could address these two, because I prepared these two and gave Seth a copy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if the Finance Committee members are aware, but Cynthia Cosgrove, our Chief Assessor, retired about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
As a result of that, there was some internal promotions made. Seth, I'm happy to say, was promoted as Chief Assessor within the department, and Lisa, who was an administrative clerk, has been promoted to Assistant Assessor. As a result of that, we had to transfer some monies between line items to account for those promotions. It did leave a balance in the clerical account, which is part of the second request that addresses some training requirements as a result of those promotions.
Okay, thank you. So we have a transfer here from the salary assistant assessor line to the salary line for the assessor, $1,061. Do I hear a motion to approve?
The motion to approve.
Thanks, Kevin. Do I hear a second? Second, Ed, thank you. And we'll have to vote. Let's see, let me go through the list. Mr. Kennedy?
Approved.
Approved, okay. Trevor?
Approved.
Okay, Mallory?
Approved.
Michael?
Approved.
Ed?
Approved.
Okay, thank you, and myself, approved. All right, so that one's approved. The next transfer is also in the assessor's office from the clerical account going to the salary line for the assessor. $4,053 is being transferred, adjustment requested due to internal promotion. Kevin, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Ed, do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. So let's all go through the list again. Kevin, yay or nay?
Yay.
Yay. Trevor?
Yay.
Mallory?
Yay.
Mike?
Yay.
Ann? Yay. And Ed?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, that's approved. Now the third transfer from the assessor's account, money is coming from the clerical line. The amount requested is $1,500 and it's going to training. And that's to, the reason for the transfer is request to transfer funds from Munis Real Estate and Personal Property Billing and Training. Do I hear a motion to recommend, Kevin?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you. Ed, do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. If anyone has any questions, chime in now. Okay, so yes or no? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And me, yes. All right, thank you. Continuing with the transfers, we have some transfers from the police chief. They're all going to different lines, so we're going to have to take these individually. And I believe these are a result of these transfers are a result of the contract being settled. The first request is from court time, $7,899.35 going to sergeant's line. Before we put a motion out there, Mr. Kazanovich, how come there aren't more transfers? I see 3 here, but I know that the contract was just settled, so how come there aren't more transfers requesting more money?
So this was, Madam Chair, this was the Superiors Group. I think it consists of roughly, help me out, Andy, how many Superiors do we have in total?
7 sergeants, 2 lieutenants.
Okay. And so there was some surplus funds within the department as a result. Court is no longer in session due to COVID-19, so there was an accumulated surplus in the court time account, and that's why they're moving the money into these line items.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this transfer, again, court time, $7,899.35 going to the sergeant's line. Reason is a negotiated wage increase. Kevin, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you. And Ed, second, Ed, thank you. All right, let's go through the list. All in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike? Michael? Yes, thank you. Ed?
Yes.
Okay, and me, yes. All right, the second transfer, also coming from court time, going to the lieutenant's line, $12,421.50, negotiated wage increase. Do I hear a motion to recommend, Ed, or Kevin?
Motion to recommend.
Thanks, Kevin. Do I hear a second, Ed?
Second.
All right, thank you. Let's go through the list. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes, okay. The next transfer is the last one here. We have a transfer requesting money from court time to go to Lieutenant's Quinville. The amount requested, $2,677.18. Kevin, do I hear a motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you. Do I hear a second, Ed? Thank you.
Second.
All right, so let's go through. Let's see, Kevin,
Yes.
Trevor,
Yes.
Mallory,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
and Ann, yes. Thank you. All right,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And now, continuing with the transfers, we have a transfer from the Council on Aging. This is a transfer from the van driver's line to the vacation coverage line. The amount requested, $550, and the reason for the transfer is an additional $15 per day from director's medical leave. Do I hear a motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thanks, Kevin, Ed. Does anyone have any questions? All right, not hearing any questions. Let's go through yes or no. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor,
Yes.
Mallory,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and Ed,
Yes.
and Ann. Yes, thank you. All right, let's look at these next transfers.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. The next, I see caller 10 here, who doesn't have a name. Who was the last person to sign up to call in?
Was it me? It's Sharon?
Nope, I got you, Sharon.
All right.
Was that Jean Boulay?
No, she left. No, I think Jean left, but she's still being
Is it
listed here.
1711? Yeah, they haven't said anything since they got on, so I don't know who it is.
Okay,
It could be someone from the general public, too.
okay, that's fine, thank you. Okay, no problem. All right, let's continue with transfers. The next three transfers from, a request for transfer from the reserve account. It's a request from the Office of the Town Manager, a request for $4,402.73 to go to the salary line. Mr. Kazanovich, what is this transfer for?
So there's an explanation under item number 5, to eliminate deficit due to contractual
Yep.
salary obligations in accordance with the performance evaluation payment for the remaining portion of this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, do I hear a motion to approve?
Yeah, motion to recommend.
Thanks. And Ed, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, so let's go through the list. First, any questions? No? Okay, let's go through the list. Let's see. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Okay, great, and Ann is a yes, too, so that's approved. The next transfer is also from the Office of the Town Manager. The account is clerical, and so we transfer from the reserve account. The requested amount is $2,223.03, and this is to eliminate the deficit due to union contractual increase fiscal year 2020 and probationary completed. So, Kevin, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to recommend.
Thanks. And a second, Ed?
Second.
Thank you. So let's go through any questions? Be sure to ask. Let's go through the list. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Ed?
Yes.
Okay, and Ann's a yes. Thank you. All right. The next transfer is interdepartmental. It is from the Human Resource Department. It's a request from the reserve fund to go to unemployment, $25,000. Is this a reserve? Oh, I guess it's interdepartmental? You sure it's not a reserve transfer?
This is a reserve transfer, so it should have been done on another form.
Okay.
But I can, as long as it's stipulated it's a reserve fund, I can.
So it's not interdepartmental, it's a transfer from our reserve fund. And the request is $25,000 to go to an unemployment line for upcoming anticipated unemployment costs.
So, Madam Chair, if I could,
Yes.
I know we have a number of active cases that we haven't been invoiced for yet. I believe we have 5 active cases. We knew that we were going to have some exposure as a result of the high unemployment. And for those individuals who may have recently been employed by the town of Auburn or have left the town of Auburn and have quotas associated with their employment here. I'm hoping this will be sufficient enough. I have no way of knowing. I basically just threw a number at this. I'm hoping it's not worse than this, but I just want to let the Finance Committee know we may have to come back for a supplemental transfer if our caseload becomes very active.
Yep, okay, thank you. All right, do I hear a motion to recommend from
Can
Kevin?
I just ask a question on this one?
Absolutely.
Ed, could you just clarify what costs are associated with unemployment? I think I just heard you mention the number 5. Is that money sufficient enough to cover us for what period of time? Could you just kind of go into that a little bit deeper as to what unemployment costs look like?
So right now, we have to cover 50% of the cost. There is a supplemental amount that's given through a stimulus package where someone who's unemployed will get $600 weekly from the federal government, as well as 50% of what they earned here. So all depending on the level of compensation that this individual or these individuals receive will determine the amount of liability on a weekly basis for a period up to 39 weeks. So my concern is we know that there's maybe 5 now, but we don't know if people are going to file for unemployment comp in the weeks ahead. Certainly some people may have been paid under the CARES Act for a period of time, up to 8 weeks, and there could be some additional layoffs when that money runs out. We just don't know what our exposure may be.
Okay, so these are town employees that have we had people that have left? Have we had, where are these people coming from? I guess?
Okay, so I could tell you we had, as a result of COVID-19, we had 2 layoffs associated with the department on the general government side. There are no layoffs that I'm aware of that have occurred on the school side. In addition to those 2, there had to be some other people that previously were employed by Auburn that was subsequently laid off by their current employer. So we may see more of that, and we just don't know how long, certainly, this crisis is going to continue. We may have to be faced with some layoffs on the town side in the coming weeks if things don't rebound rather quickly.
Okay, so God forbid we're faced with a layoff situation, there's still a liability to the town for at least the 39-week period for 50% of the salary?
Correct, unless that period is extended through some type of legislation, either at the federal level or the state level. And that's happened before, where an extension was granted for like up to 50 weeks. But right now, it stands at 39 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, good question, thank you. So do we have a motion to recommend from Kevin?
Yes, I'll recommend, motion to recommend.
Thanks, Kevin. And Ed, second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go through the list. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. All right. The next transfer is general services, the interdepartmental. The money is coming from the water, sewer, and heating line. The amount requested is $3,000, and it's going to office supplies. The reason is essential office supplies. Do I hear a motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend.
Ed?
Second.
Thanks, Ed. And let's go through the list. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. All right, continuing, we have 2 more transfers, both from the reserve account. The first is for legal services for the town council. Amount requested is $20,000. And Mr. Kazanovich, can you tell us which month this is for, and can we expect more costs in this line?
So after discussions with personnel next door, we believe this should be adequate to get us hopefully through the end of the year. There are a number of matters being addressed by our town council. One has to do with a lawsuit that we're currently in the middle of. It's been a long and ongoing case. There is no foreseeable closure to this case in the near future. So these matters need to be defended, and monitored. And as a result, we're seeking an additional $20,000.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kazanovich. Do I hear a motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, let's go through the list. Kevin, yes or no?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ed?
Yeah.
And Ann, yes. Okay, our next transfer is also from the reserve fund for legal services, the negotiator line, and this is for $10,000. Mr. Kasanovich, how long should this last us, hopefully?
So, once again, I'm expecting this to get us through the end of the year, given where we are now. We did have a number of matters that were being litigated by Labor Council. They had to do with mediation on some of our negotiations, which really put a strain on the legal line item for labor and negotiations. The one mediation has been settled. Actually, two have been settled. One was recently settled as late as yesterday. So hopefully there'll be no additional costs. There may be another 1 month billing for that mediation cost. But since those matters have been settled, we should resume back to some normalcy under that line item.
Okay, thanks. So this should get us through to the end of the year is what I'm hearing. And the end of the year is what, June 30th? So it's not that, okay. All right, do I hear a motion?
Yeah, just a quick question. Yeah,
Absolutely.
One question.
Yep.
Sorry, Ed. Most of these costs, I think, are coming from one matter that you've previously discussed with the Finance Committee. Hopefully, everything will go in the town's favor for this, but is there any legal recourse for us, if this party's claim is found to be baseless and thrown out of court, for us to try and recoup some of these huge costs that have gone to defend the town?
So, in a case where we're able to do that, we've had discussions with Labor Council and outside Labor Council relative to that. I guess it all depends on the outcome of the matter, either in a court of law or through some type of an agreement. But certainly when we can and if we can, we'll try to recoup whatever costs that we have provided for in defense of those matters.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Mr. Kennedy, do I hear a motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you. Ed, do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. So let's go through the list. Kevin, yes or no?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And I'm yes too. Okay, thank you. So we just have a few more transfers from the DPW, and then we're going to go right into the warrant. So the DPW transfers, let's see, if they're going to the same account, we can take them together, right? No, they're not. Okay. So the first transfer, there's three of them. The first transfer, this is interdepartmental, is from wages full-time going to the overtime account. The amount requested to be moved is $2,035, and this transfer will eliminate the deficit in the account. Any questions?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you. Do I hear a second, Ed?
Second.
Thank you. Let's go through the list. Kevin? Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Okay, thank you. The next interdepartmental transfer is also Highway Department. The money is, the amount being moved is coming from wages full-time, going to drugs and alcohol testing, $515. This transfer will eliminate the deficit in the account. Do I hear a motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend.
Thanks. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes, thank you. All right, the last transfer is the Highway Department, interdepartmental, from wages full-time, the amount requested $1,618.17, going into the Assistant DPW Director line. The reason for the transfer is this transfer will eliminate the deficit in the account. Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, I just want to let the members know that this transfer was required as a result of a retirement by, Jeff Mitchell retired back in January. As a result of that, there's accrued time that he was due. And so this basically accounts for the appointment of Joanna Paquin as Assistant DPW Director, along with her duties and responsibilities as Source Superintendent, but also accounts for the amount of money that we had to pay out for Jeff Mitchell.
Okay, that makes sense, thank you. And Mr. Kennedy, did I hear you made a motion?
Yes, a motion to recommend.
Thank you. And Ed?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Let's see. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. Okay, all the transfers are done. So now we're going to look at the warrant for the town meeting on June 2nd. So, as we go through, remember that we're going to vote to either recommend approval, not recommend approval, defer to the petitioner, or take no position and make and then we can make a recommendation at town meeting. So Article 1 is to hear reports of the Finance Committee and other town officers and committee. We don't make any recommendation on that. Article 2 is to vote to fix the salary and compensation of elected town officers. That's not something we vote on, is it, Mr. Kessler?
I think it is yes, it is one you take a position on.
Okay, and are these the bylaw?
No, this is the town clerk, the board of selectmen, and the town moderator.
So do I hear a motion to recommend approval on Article 2?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ed. And let's go, we have to go through the list again. Here we go. So Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Ed?
Yes.
Okay, and me, yes. Thank you. Question?
And just a quick question. Some of these are, administrative, but before we get to any of the ones that are expenditure-based, that things that we may have looked at previously, or these were brought forth for the warrant prior to the situation we're in, can Mr. Kesnovich just give us some guidance? Are any of these going to be withdrawn, or are they recommending for any to be tabled, or anything of that nature, in the way things have changed?
Yeah.
Great question. So I think we conveyed, not only to the Board of Selectmen, to the Finance Committee, we're moving forward with what was recommended by the Finance Committee now, knowing very well that we're going to have to revisit the budgets and there are going to have to be some adjustments made. Unfortunately, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has not even begun to give us any indication on what revenue loss we can expect as a result of this economic crisis. The latest news I heard is that we're hoping to expect to hear something from A&F or through the governor in early July. Certainly, I think it's something we have to act on very quickly, because my contention is I think we need to make these adjustments as quickly as possible. I think it would be much more painful if we waited until the fall town meeting to make these adjustments, since we'd basically be through a third of the fiscal year, maybe even a little further than that, all depending on when the fall town meeting is. We know we're going to have to make adjustments. Everything is on the table. We're talking about looking at our capital. We're talking about potentially deferring OPEB as a way to get through this crisis. We're talking about maybe deferring some of our roadway reconstruction projects. Certainly, we know this is going to be a difficult situation. Whether or not we're going to get any federal stimulus money that may come our way, that is currently being, well, that had been discussed earlier on, but it has not gotten any traction at the federal level yet. But I know that there is some interest through our legislators, whether it be our congressmen as well as our senators down in Washington. I think there's clear recognition that municipalities have to be addressed in another stimulus package bill. So, too early to say how deep we have to cut. We know there's going to be a definite revenue loss. We've prepared and notified all departments to present to us a budget that reflects a 2.75% cut of what was recommended by finance. We're going to start there. We know that may not entirely fill the hole, but I think in combination with that, and if we look at potentially deferring OPEB, maybe using a portion of our stabilization, maybe putting a freeze on capital expenditures, and maybe deferring some of our roadway projects, that we can hopefully fill that hole and get through a very difficult year.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'm hoping some of the other members of the committee will speak up, but I'm just wondering, just even as a sign of being conservative, are there any projects that are on this warrant that we should be just pushing off to the fall, just in good conscience, that we even brought the term layoffs up earlier in this meeting? Are there anything that can wait that we can just defer or not recommend or not act on, or whatever the terminology is for this current warrant? I mean, there didn't seem to be anything dramatic on this one, but I'm just curious to see what other people feel about that.
Kevin, if I could just let you know that when this warrant went before the Board of Selectmen, we made a recommendation to put on hold for now Article 12, which is $500,000 for other post-employment benefits. Given where we are right now, I think that's something that we could put on hold and readdress in the fall if funds are available. It pains me to make that recommendation, but if it's that or sacrificing some positions, whether it be in public safety, education, or whatever essential services is needed in Auburn, I think that's one area that we can at least postpone for a year in order to get through this difficult crisis.
Thank you, Ed, for that, and I do realize the town administration takes every one of these decisions seriously, especially when it comes to the employees of the town. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions right now, or can ask them as we go through? All right, Article 3 is the budget, which we've already recommended, so we don't need to move. All right, Article 4 is the CIP budget, which we've already approved, right?
I would, through a formal vote, Madam Chair, I would ask for a motion for these.
All right, so Article 4 is to see if town meeting will vote to approve a capital improvement budget for fiscal year 2021. So this we've already we've listened to the department heads as they've come before us, and they've presented their budgets, and we've asked them about their capital budgets also. So at this point, if you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, I'd also ask for recommendation, a motion to recommend approval, please.
Make a motion to recommend.
Thanks, Kevin. Do I hear a second, Ed?
Second.
Okay. Let's go through the roster. Kevin, yes or no?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, thank you.
Sharon, would you suggest that we take a vote on Article 3, similar to Article 4?
Yes, usually you do take a formal vote on Article 3.
Okay, so let's do that then. Do I hear a motion to recommend Article 3, which is the budgets that we've been going through?
Motion to recommend.
Thanks, Kevin. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Let's go through the roster. Yes or no, please? All in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann is yes. All right, now the next articles, those are Articles 5 through 11. Is it possible that we take them together
Yes.
in one vote?
Yep.
Okay, so should I just read the article and its general intent? So for everyone, Articles 5 through 11 are annual articles that allow the departments to do different usual processes and procedures. For instance, I'm going to read through them, and then I'd like to hear a vote to take them together, and then we can vote on recommending them. So Article 5 is to see if town meeting will vote to authorize the town treasurer to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of revenue. Article 6 is to see if town meeting will vote to authorize Board of Selectmen to submit applications for any available state or federal funds. Article 7 is to see if town meeting will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell at public auction any properties which the town may have acquired. Article 8 is to see if town meeting will vote to authorize the town treasurer to enter into compensatory balance agreements, in other words, do the banking. Article 9 is to see if town meeting will vote to establish or renew revolving funds for various town and school programs. And that list was sent out to everyone. Article 10 is to see if town meeting will vote to authorize the town manager to enter into contracts with the Mass Department of Transportation. And Article 11 is to see if town meeting will vote to appropriate from available funds a sum of money if it becomes available from the Department of Transportation Chapter 90 bond issue proceeds. So do I hear a motion that we take these articles together, Articles 5 through 11?
Motion to recommend taking those articles together as one vote.
Thank you, Kevin. And do I hear a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ed. So now we'll vote to approve. Let's go through the list. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann is yes. Okay, so Article 12 on the warrant is see if town meeting will vote to appropriate $500,000 to the other post.
And I think we have to actually vote on it, on the articles. We voted to take them together, but now we have to vote on them.
I'm sorry. Okay, so we vote to take them together. Now, do I hear a motion to recommend approval on those articles?
Motion to recommend the approval of those articles.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, so now we'll go through the list. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ann? And Ed, yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's all set. Continuing, Article 12 is the, see if town meeting will vote to appropriate $500,000 to the other post-employment benefits liability trust fund. Mr. Kazanovich, is this being postponed?
So I'd ask that you take no position on this warrant article at this point. Sharon, what was the vote of the board? What was their position on this? No action at this time?
Yes, the Board of Selectmen voted to take no action.
So I would take a similar vote, and if things are as bleak as they are now, I think there would be a motion made to postpone this warrant article indefinitely, and then we can always bring something in the fall if things improve.
So this, okay, thank you. So we should vote to take no position on this. Do I hear a recommendation that, or do I hear a motion that we vote to take no position on this article?
Is it a no position or no action? I'm just curious what our choices are, Ann.
Our choice is take no position. Those are the four that have been presented to us. I don't see take no action on there.
Normally, this is Sharon, normally when you take no position, sometimes you may or may not make a recommendation at town meeting, so I think the standard motion to take no position is the correct one.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to take no position on Article 12 of this, the warrant.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. The next articles are from our school department, and I see Superintendent Mary Ellen Brunel is here tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening. Do you want to talk about anything first, or should we just wait and maybe ask you questions as we go through?
That would be fine, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So Article 13, see if town meeting will vote to appropriate $150,000 from Medicaid receipts within the general fund revenues to Auburn School Department operating budget for fiscal year 2021. And I believe these are, correct me,
This is a standard warrant article. It has been reduced as a result of a vote by school committee from, was it 200 or 185,000, Mary Ellen?
We had it increased to 200 for last year, but based on our projections, we're more comfortable with 150,000 going forward for next year.
okay, thank you. All right, so do I hear a motion to recommend approval on this article?
A motion to recommend approval.
A second? Thanks, Ed. Okay, so all in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. Article 14, to see if town meeting will vote to appropriate $7,117.80, which is the interest earned by the Auburn High School Gymnasium Health and Recreational Trust Fund to offset school department costs at the high school. Do I hear a motion, and this again is an annual article, do I hear a motion to recommend approval?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. Article 15 is another article that comes up every year. It's to see if town meeting will vote to appropriate $3,000 from the McKinney-Vento receipts within the general fund revenues of the Auburn School Department operating, to the Auburn School Department operating budget for fiscal year 2021 to fund transportation for students to and from school who have become homeless during the fiscal year. Do I hear a motion to recommend approval?
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Thank you, Ed. All in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Okay, Article 16 is to see if town meeting will vote to authorize the superintendent, with the approval of Board of Selectmen, to enter into a memorandums of understanding with the Department of Children and Families, the Executive Office of Health and Human Services, and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed in order to obtain federal Title IV-E reimbursements as a result of foster care transportation being performed. Superintendent Brunel, I don't recall this article coming up before. Is this new?
This is a new article. It's actually a new opportunity, and whether or not it will be funded remains to be seen due to the current fiscal climate. But we currently, right now, pay the transportation to transport children in foster care to their school of origin. This is a new opportunity for school districts to actually seek reimbursement from potentially DCF or the other organizations noted for at least a portion of those transportation costs. And what it's estimated to be is that it may only be at approximately about 20% of the costs that we outlay, but 20% would certainly be appreciated, and again, it would need to be funded by those organizations.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. All right, do I hear a motion to recommend approval?
Motion to recommend.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes, thank you. Okay, the next two articles are also from the school committee. Article 17, to see if town meeting will vote to repurpose CIP funds by amending Article 3 of May 2015 annual town meeting. Authorize the amount of $45,000 originally intended to be used for window replacement at the central office administration building to now be used towards the procurement of a new district truck for the school department. Superintendent Brunel, I guess my first question would be, are those windows all replaced at the central office administration building?
So, Madam Chair, they are not replaced, and in fact, we are holding off because until a determination is made regarding the new safety complex, we've stopped putting any monies into central office but for emergency repairs. So the $45,000 was only going to replace a small portion of the windows, but we thought because the truck is 12 years old, currently is not passed an inspection sticker, and we use it for a variety of reasons, one of which is to transport the instruments for the students in the band, to take the trailer, sometimes as far as upstate New York, that a new truck would better serve us rather than having to rent a coach bus, or charter, I should say, a coach bus.
Okay, thank you. Do the members have any questions? So do I hear a motion to recommend approval of Article 17?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, do I hear second? Thank you, Mr. Coleman. So all in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. The next Article 18 from the school committee to see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose CIP funds by amending Article 17 of the May 27 town meeting, Central Administration Building Rehab, and authorize the balance in this account of $3,862, which was originally appropriated for window replacement, to now be used towards the procurement of a new district truck for the school department. Do I hear a motion to recommend approval?
Can we ask Dr. Brunel what truck Mr. Fahey spec'd out?
So this is, it's very similar to the truck that we have currently. It's just going to be new, hopefully a 2020 version of that. But I don't have the specifics, Mr. Kennedy. I'm sorry.
It was more in jest. I know he's made that old truck go for a lot of years. So I'll make a motion to recommend on that article as well.
He has. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, do I hear a second?
Yes, second.
Okay, all in favor. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes?
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you.
Thank you
All right.
very much.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Have a great evening. Thanks, everyone.
You too, thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Brunel.
Okay, Article 19, to see if town meeting will vote to accept the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 5th C, to allow for an exemption of the real and personal estate belonging to or held in trust for the benefit of incorporated organizations of veterans of any war in which the United States has been engaged, to the extent of $1,500,000 if used and occupied by such association, and if the net income from the property is used for charitable purposes, or to act on anything relative thereto. And this was submitted by the Veterans Advisory Committee. Mr. Kasnovich, this is a new article, I believe.
It's a new article. It's my understanding this was addressed as a result of the fire over at the Legion. It is my understanding, since there is no value currently, well, I guess from what we're hearing, they're going to do a tear down and a rebuild, not knowing what that new value is going to be. But as part of that discussion, the Legion had with the assessor's office, it's my understanding that they claim to be a charitable organization, not-for-profit. Therefore, they would qualify for an exemption on the first $1.5 million of value on their property, provided that the income, and they would have to show on an annual basis that the income is used for charitable purposes and not for profit. So this is something that they're pursuing. The town administration has no objection because we do have the opportunity to verify whether or not that income is used for charitable or whether or not they are for any functions, whether or not that profit is going towards something other than charitable. So this would be a new clause adopted by the town once voted by town meeting.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Okay.
And I guess one question for Ed is, are there any other organizations that would qualify or could be seeking this type of exemption in the future?
Currently, it is my understanding this is the only organization that would qualify right now.
Thank you. I'd make a motion to recommend that if there are no other questions.
Thank you. Ed, do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. So all in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes?
Michael?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. Article 20 on the warrant is submitted by the Chief of Police, and the request is to see if town meeting will vote to appropriate $1,600 from general fund revenues for the purchase of Narcan or act on anything relative thereto. Chief Slukas, did you want to talk about this at all, or is it self-explanatory?
It is. I'll just add, and basically what we have now is our current budget allowed us to purchase some units of Narcan, and right now the officers have to trade off at shift change because we don't have enough for everyone. And and like if an officer's working a detail, they don't have any with them. This would essentially allow us to equip the other half of the department with Narcan so that everybody will have it with them all the time.
Okay, thank you. All right, do I hear a motion to recommend? Yes, sir.
Just one quick question for the chief, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Chief, I know this, so will your operating budget try and be increased? Because I know there's an expiration date, unfortunately, pretty quickly on the Narcan. And as a second component, do we ever look to seek reimbursement as like a medical supply if these parties are transported? Does the fire department assist us in billing out for the Narcan doses?
I don't know what the fire department does. I would doubt it. I would think that the insurance company of whoever's transported is charged whatever amount of monies they're charged, and whatever equipment they use or whatever drugs they use are incorporated into those bills that go out. This is just in the event that we arrive prior to the ambulance, which it happens. It doesn't happen a lot. Unfortunately, it's happened 4 times this past weekend. We had to use Narcan 4 different times. So it's just more of a safety net in the event that we get there. But with respect to reimbursement, no.
Thank you.
All right, do I hear a motion to recommend approval?
Motion to recommend.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. So all in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. Article 21, to see if town meeting will vote, thank you, Chief. See if town meeting will vote to appropriate $25,000 from general fund revenues for the care and maintenance of the Julie Bancroft School building or act on anything relative thereto. So, question, Mr. Kazanovich, what about Mary D. Stone, or is that being sold to the...
So, a couple of comments. Number one, this had been a standard warrant article at $46,000 for the past 3 years, I believe, maybe 4. We basically cut it in half as a result of, hopefully, the Articles 24, 25, and 26 will pass on June 2nd, which will trigger the sale of that property. Once that property is sold, the care and maintenance of that facility now is assumed by Penrose. So we're able to cut that roughly by half, and Julia Bancroft would still be under our care and custody. Hopefully, we'll get some positive news on that vacant school building in the next round of funding through the state and federal government.
Okay, thank you. So is Mary D. Stone scheduled then, assuming that these articles pass, is June 30th the sale date?
I don't know specifically. We're hoping to close on that in the month of June.
Okay.
And construction, or you'd see activity beginning as early as the end of June, or beginning of July.
Good, so before the end of the fiscal year we're in?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, do I hear a motion to recommend approval for Article 21?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Let's see, okay, thank you. All in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. So, Articles 22, 23, and, excuse me. Oh, I beg your pardon. Article 22 first has been submitted by the town clerk, is to see if town meeting will vote to accept Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 19H, which reads as follows: notwithstanding the limitation contained in Section 19G, in a city or town which accepts this section of the total amount of additional compensation payable to its clerk, who also serves as a member of its Board of Registrars of Voters, shall not exceed $2,000, or act on anything relative thereto. Mr. Kazanovich, can you fill us in on this article?
Sure, provided, is the town clerk with us or no?
No, I do not believe so.
I am here.
Oh, okay,
Can you
there you
hear
go.
me?
Yes. So Deb Gramo, our town clerk, is here. Can you tell us about Article 22?
This Article 22 is notwithstanding, like it said, to increase the additional compensation payable to the clerk as part of the Board of Registrars. So it just increases the amount that is able to be paid to the clerk, increasing because the general one that doesn't need to be accepted is Chapter 4119G, and then this just increases the compensation up to the $2,000.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Kazanovich, are you, or I should say, Ms. Gramo, is the clerk already paid as a member of the Board of Registrars currently?
Currently, the clerk is paid under the Board of Registrars under 4119G.
Okay,
I accept in 4119H, it increases the amount paid to the clerk.
And Deb, the current amount, is it 800 or 1,000 currently?
Yes.
Okay,
I think it's right between 8 and 1,000
okay.
right now.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Town Clerk Deb Gramo. All right, so any questions about this? Do I hear a motion to recommend approval for Article 22?
Motion to recommend?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Okay, so that's recommended. And Article 23, 24, and 25, again, excuse me, I take that back. Article 23, to see if town meeting will vote to amend Section 2.04 of the Auburn General Bylaws entitled Presiding Officer by adding a new subsection 2, which shall read as follows. Presiding Officer, on matters requiring a 2/3 vote by statute, account need not be taken unless the vote so declared is immediately questioned by 7 or more voters, or act on anything relative thereto. This is submitted by the town moderator. So,
And I'd make a motion on that one to defer to the petitioner on that one.
yeah. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. Okay. Now the next 3 articles are all regarding Penrose Properties, and they are asking for different easements. I'm not going to read the entire articles, but I would...
Yeah, can I take a motion to take those 3 articles as one?
Good. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And yes. All right, thank you. So Article 24 is to see if town meeting will vote to accept a permanent, non-exclusive access easement for vehicular and pedestrian traffic to pass and repass over that portion of land, and then it's referencing a draft plan. Article 25, to see if town meeting will vote to grant a permanent, non-exclusive parking and utility easement to Penrose Properties, and to permit the installation of and connection to and discharge of stormwater into a groundwater recharge system within the specified portion of land. And Article 26, to see if town meeting will vote to grant a permanent, non-exclusive landscaping and maintenance easement to Penrose Properties. So this is all, as Mr. Kazanovich said, related to the Mary D. Stone School project. Do I hear a motion to recommend approval for Article 24, 25, and 26?
Make a motion to recommend those 3 articles.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
We don't have to vote on these.
Yeah, I would, as
Would
for,
definitely-
yes.
Okay, all in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. All right, we're getting to the end. Article 27 is to see if town meeting will vote to appropriate $25,000 from sewer retained earnings to replace the sewer channel grinder at the Pinrock Pump Station, or act on anything relative thereto, submitted by the sewer superintendent and the DPW director. Do I hear a motion to recommend approval?
And do we want to just have, see if Mr. Coyle wants to speak on any of these, since we have
We have 4.
3 sewer-related?
Okay, go ahead. Yes, thank you. Mr. Coyle, could you tell us about these articles?
Yes, good evening. So we have 3 articles relative to the sewer department. 2 of the articles are to purchase channel grinders for the pump stations themselves. They're just general maintenance. Over the years, they wear down the teeth and they're in need of replacement. The other article for $300,000 is for a sewer main under the Bancroft Street Bridge. Has been identified that it is wearing and in need of replacement. It was actually, we were notified by Mass DOT when they were doing a bridge inspection that the pipe itself was corroding, and then after further evaluation of our department, we felt the need for replacement. So it's under design now. The design is nearing completion, and the estimated construction cost is $300,000. I think if you have any questions on these 3 articles, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Going back, Articles 27, as I mentioned, was to appropriate $25,000 from sewer retained earnings to replace the grinder, and Article 28 is to repurpose some money and put also the sewer channel grinder. All right, so Article 27, do I hear a motion to recommend approval?
Motion to recommend.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. Article 28, to see if town meeting will vote to amend Article 16 of the 2004 Fall Town Meeting as follows: delete the balance of funds of $16,858.45 to install biofilter air filtration system at the Pinrock Pump Station, and add $16,858.45 to replace the sewer channel grinder at Pinrock Pump Station, or act on anything relative thereto. So, Mr. Coyle, I assume this is for one grinder that's being purchased, right? And the money's coming from the 2 sources?
So through the chair, this $16,000 will purchase a channel grinder, and the biofilter work has been completed. This was an article back in 2004, and they've actually replaced the material within the biofilter again this year with town staff. So we don't anticipate any additional work needed for the biofilter for quite some time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Coyle. Do I hear a motion to recommend approval in Article 28?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ed? And Ann, yes. Thank you. Our last article, Article 30, to see if town meeting will vote to appropriate $3,000 from the expendable trust cemetery perpetual care account to replace hazardous trees that were removed or act on anything relative thereto. Submitted by the cemetery superintendent and the DPW director. Do I hear a motion to recommend approval on Article 30?
And I'll do the motion on that one, but I believe we still have to take 29.
Yeah.
If I'm not,
Oh, my God. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm just,
but
Let's
while we've
do
got
30.
30 up, and we can take care of that.
yes.
Motion to recommend Article 30.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes?
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann is yes. Thank you. All right, beg your pardon. Article 29, this is the last one. To see if town meeting will vote to authorize the borrowing of $300,000 to replace the sewer main located under the Bancroft Street Bridge over the Mass Pike or act on anything relative thereto. Do I hear a motion to...
And can I just ask a question
Yes.
on this one?
Go ahead.
Ed or Bill, when we say borrowing, what is that a one-year borrow, or how does that, for that large sum, how does that work?
So this would be a...
I'll defer to you on the years.
Okay, so this would be a long-term borrowing. It all depends. I mean, initially, we may go out for a band for a period of 1 to 2 years, all depending on what we decide to do with some of our other capital requests for FY21. If we put certain things on hold, then we may opt for a short-term borrowing until we decide what we're going to do during the course of the next year or two. But anyway, even if we go out for a ban for a period of 1 to 2 years, ultimately this would have to be bonded for a period not to exceed 10 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So, do we have a motion?
I'd make a motion to recommend Article 29.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes?
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. Okay, the warrant is completed. We do still have one more thing on the agenda, but the warrant is all set. Thank you. The last item on our agenda is to vote to authorize our chief financial officer to verbally approve transfers up to $250. So do I hear a motion that the Finance Committee authorizes our chief financial officer to verbally approve transfers up to $250 to close out fiscal 2020?
Make a motion to recommend that.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor. Kevin?
Yes.
Trevor?
Yes.
Mallory?
Yes?
Mike?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And Ann, yes. Thank you. All right, that is it on our agenda. Mr. Kazanovich, do you anticipate we'll have to meet again before our June 2nd town meeting?
Not before June 2nd, but certainly we may have to meet before the end of the fiscal year at some point. All depends. We'll try to minimize the frequency of meetings as best we can. But certainly, we always meet typically once the end of June and once the middle of July to make some transfers to officially close out the books. Don't know if it's going to be delayed as a result of COVID-19 for any reason. It all depends on a number of things. So we'll keep you informed as best we can in anticipation of when we may have to meet in order to effectuate any transfers that result in the closing of the books.
Okay, and do you anticipate that there might be a town meeting in the summer, perhaps in August to address the fiscal constraints that are coming through?
I believe, and it would be my recommendation, in consultation with the town manager, that we have a town meeting as soon as practical in order to address any loss of revenue or any reduction in state aid, make corresponding reductions, get those amended budgets or recommendations to the Finance Committee, and then prepare to have a town meeting, so we can address a, I just think it's going to be too late to wait till October, beginning in November. It's going to be more difficult to implement those reductions over a shorter period of time.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kazanovich. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add this evening?
Yeah, could I just ask, I like the letter that Ed copied us in on for the department heads relative to, some fiscal decisions being made. Could we just ask that Ed keep us in the loop or updated with any news or reports that come down, either from the state or federal or, between meetings, just to so we can keep an eye on what the outlook looks fiscally within the town before we meet, if there's a gap between meetings?
Sure, we'll keep you plugged in. We'll work through the chair and get that information to each and every one of you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, everybody.